Hello, welcome. I'm Hannah, and today we're going to be doing eye swatches of the new Dawn palette from Shine by SD in collaboration with mjones5018 and Bizarra Volta on Instagram. This palette was one of two that launched on April 15th. I placed my order right away, and it came to me on the 18th, so like 3 days later. From Canada. I did pay for the slightly more expensive shipping option, but I was still really impressed, and I'm really excited to have this. This is their second collab, just a little bit of a backstory in case you are new to this palette. They did do a collab with Shine by SD that came out in January of 2022, and it was also two 6-pan palettes. At the time of that launch, I was really excited about it, but they did the same thing. They only launched it in bundles of 6, and my desires were really like split down the middle. There was like 2 or 3 I wanted of each of them, and it just didn't make sense for me to spend that much money to compromise. So I ended up waiting on those. I continued really wanting them all year, and they did eventually release them as singles, I think in early summer of last year. They are doing a similar thing this time, that they're saying there's no plans right now to release them as singles. I also did see one comment from the brand saying they won't be released as singles, which I think is more finite than they were saying last year. So I guess it is still up in the air whether or not they will be released as singles, but this time around, this one was the clear one that I wanted, and because I'm dedicating a little bit more money this year to products to review on my channel, I decided to go ahead and get this one. The other one is really pretty too, but it was more like purpley and green, and besides I think the shade Apex was really stood out, it just didn't look like it was going to have my favorite shades, and for like $80-ish for the bundle, it wasn't worth it to me to add it on. But I'm so excited to have this in my hands. This one I bought as the bundle of 6 shadows, and then I also bought this magnetic palette separately. The palette was I think like $3.50 or something like that, but it doesn't really close that well. Yeah, you could see on the side, it doesn't like, it is kind of now. I do hear the magnet clicking now. Maybe they've kind of settled in there since I've had them in this palette for a couple days, but I don't feel like they're secure in this palette because I don't think that this palette is deep enough to keep them in along with the magnets. I do wish they had like a note of that on the website or something, that like if you get it as a magnetic palette, it won't be able to like seal shut securely. But I mean, maybe I'll use it for pictures or something. I don't know. But knowing that, I probably wouldn't have spent the $3.50 on the palette just to like hold it up in the video like this, you know? Because I will be taking these out of the palette when I'm done with this and mixing them in with my normal singles. That was a lot of blabber. I think I'm just going to get into the shadows now. I've only touched one of them so far. We'll talk about that one in a minute, but I think the first 2 I want to do are these 2 cooler toned ones on the outsides, just because they look kind of more similar, and then I could do the 2 pinkier ones together and the 2 brownier ones together. So we're going to start with Granny Magic. This one doesn't look quite as impressive in pictures, but the people that received it in PR and the creators that created this palette were saying that like it comes alive in person in a way that doesn't translate in pictures. So, I mean, if that's the case, I'll let you know what I see, even if it doesn't translate in my camera, but it does look like it's harder pressed. It's really spinning in here. I might just take these out now because that's annoying to pick up. Okay, Granny Magic. Yeah, it does have a little bit more texture when I pick it up than I might have thought it would, but I imagine it's going to be a very like, yeah, sheer kind of wash of color. Looking at this in the viewfinder, it doesn't impress me much. I did see something, one of the creators said this, I believe, that for the collab in 2022, all of the shades were multi-chromes and the price was higher because of that. This time they have some more variants in formulas to keep the price down. It's still really expensive. I don't know if they knocked like $10 off the price, but I wonder if this is kind of the result of that. Yeah, I'm looking at it in my mirror, and I think it looks better in person than it does in the camera, but I'm still not obsessed with it. It's just like not enough color. Ooh, sorry for the hair in my middle of the face. It's just like not enough color for me to want to wear it on its own. It does have a lot of nice sparkle, and maybe it's a kind of shadow I would tap into another look to add some more of that PC sparkle on top of a shadow that already has some texture. But if I had the option to repurchase these as singles, I would skip over this one. This one is Lorelei, and I'm also nervous because it looks like the same type of formula as Granny Magic. I do believe that the next four are going to be really good. I really have hope, but this is the other one that I'm a little bit nervous about, and if I had the option to purchase the singles, I probably wouldn't have this. It feels a little bit more hard-pressed than Granny Magic, but it does look more pigmented on my finger. It at least has more of a base. Let's give it another layer. Yeah, I'm not really excited about this. It kind of gives me vibes of like Give Me Glow Glass Slipper with like the blue base and the pink sparkle, or Blue Lagoon from Luxie, but both of those have a little bit more oomph to them, and I'm not getting the oomph from the shadow. I think it's pretty, and I do think a lot of shadows that I try out nowadays, they're not bad, and if I had a small collection, I would wear this, but because I have the luxury of choice by having so many indie single shadows, a shadow has to be really incredible for me to want to wear it, and this one is just not exciting me. Just giving you another angle of these. They do look really sparkly in my normal desk light, which is less all-encompassing than my ring light is. That is a lot of nice sparkle, so I'll give it that. They're not trash shadows, I'm just not as excited about these as I think I will be about the next ones. I don't know if I already said this before, there was no primer on my eyes before, and then I removed those shadows and I just went over with my dirty foundation brush to mattify my lids. Now we're going to be going into Fairy Ring. This is the shadow that I feel like was being hyped up the most, and for good reason. It looks really pretty. I love a really sparkly light pink. You can see where I put my finger in, and it looks really dingy. I'm not exactly sure why. I'll tell you the exact circumstances of when I used it. I did this look with Divina Half Sea Fog that just came out from their Sea of Shadows collection. The look came out really pretty. I liked it. I was nervous that there wasn't going to be enough sparkle in that shadow for me, but I feel like once it was in a look, I really liked it. But because in my video I mentioned that I would probably wear it with another shadow on top of it for more sparkle, I decided to try it out. So the pictures I posted on Instagram are just Half Sea Fog, but I'll also put in a picture where I have Fairy Ring on top of it. I think it did add a lot more dimensional sparkle. I don't think it needed it, but I think it is pretty, and it's fun to use your shadows as art supplies and add them on like that sometimes. But I am confused about the dinginess because my finger wasn't dirty when I went into it, and the only thing I had used was that greenish Half Sea Fog, and I don't feel like that shadow is that dark to look like this in the pan. I don't know. Let's see how it goes now. I can tell that this one's more textured than the first two. Ooh, you see that pinky greeniness? All is forgiven. That's so pretty. It does go into my eye very smooth and light. I find that Shine by SD makes all different kinds of formulas. Some shadows are just like eh to me. Some shadows are absolute. Some of my favorite shadows in my whole collection. Some are really thick. Some are really thin. Some are really sparkly. Some are less sparkly. This one is more of a thinner formula, but I don't think you would know that from looking at it, and I think looking at it, it does deliver. I still prefer the feel of a thicker formula when I put my finger into it, but I'll still definitely be rocking this regardless because it looks so pretty. Yeah, I think zooming in, you can see all the different kinds of sparkle in there. I'm seeing blue, I'm seeing green, I'm seeing pink, I'm seeing red. They had described this as having like a near holographic finish, like it's not holographic, but it looks holographic, and that's how I felt about some of the singles I got from their last Duality collab last year, and I was hoping this would be a continuation of that. Those do have a thicker formula, which I prefer to the touch, but I think visually this does look like the cousin or the sister of those shadows, Mountain Magic and Queen of Chaos. I'm pleased with this one. And then the next one, I'm so excited about this. I might have been like even more excited about it because I can see from the pan that it has more texture. This one is called Echidna. It looks like this like hot plummy pink bronzy green multi-chrome. I'm really excited. Yeah, it has that texture that I like. It feels almost flaky when you pick it up, but not flaky. Like almost like flakes in the pan that immediately smooth down once you touch it. Okay, it is going a little bit more sheer onto my lid. I think you can see it's more concentrated at the bottom and it looks like it's sheared out on its own. I'm gonna build this up a little bit. Yeah, I think with the second layer, it's gorgeous. Cute! Ooh, I like this. I'm so excited to wear the shadow with like a dark, intense, blown out, matte, brown, berryish look, and this all over the lid. I think that's going to be really pretty, or like in a sunset eye, like bring out the orange with some orange mattes. I like this shadow. You can see there's definitely fallout coming from it. Fallout isn't my favorite, not necessarily my worst enemy, but it is worth noting because it is a little annoying, especially if you're someone who does your base makeup first. But the look of the shadow really excites me. The look of both of these, absolutely gorgeous, and I just feel like this one's kind of glowing, and I love that. Oh yeah, here's the sparkle in the other lighting of these. I think you could really see what they mean by nearly holographic in this one. Wow. And this one too is just so beautiful, glowy, shimmery. Gorgeous. I love only eye swatching 6 shadows. We're almost at the end of this. My eyelids are still happy. This is kind of great. The last two are these more bronzy neutral ones. We have, I believe this is Whistling Woods and Changeling. I can see from the pans that this one looks more multi-chromatic, but this one looks more textured. So I think I am a little bit more excited about Whistling Woods. I think it does have a pretty good shift in there either way. Let's start with Changeling, the one that looks less textured. Oh, it does have a really nice, like, soft finish to it. I really like how that one feels. Yeah, and I think you can see going on the eye, it has like a little bit more oomph to it right off the bat. Ooh, I like this shadow. Ooh. You know what I like about this? I feel like I have a bunch of shadows in my collection that are like black-based multi-chromes, and I find them hard to use because I need a specific matte setup to blend them into my skin, and I end up never reaching for them. I feel like this has a similar kind of intense, multi-chromatic, deepish effect as those do, without being quite as deep and without being black-based. So I think for that reason, like, this is something I would use in place of like Cleona Forge. Forge is a shadow that I really respect, but I never reach for it. And this does the same kind of like green to bronze to red. Perhaps not as intense, but it's still there. And that's still beautiful. I'm excited about that. And then the final one, Whistling Woods. You know what, it reminds me of two things. It reminds me of the formula of Red Hot from Luxie, if you tried that. It also kind of reminds me of the Minka formula from Adept. Very emollient, very kind of like hard flakes in a way. Yeah, like it feels more like little pieces of metal going on. And it looks like that too. Oh my god. Not always my favorite formula because I feel like it can very easily like be too wild, too intense, but I do think this one is done really nicely. Wow! What the heck? This shadow, like I will have to keep that in mind using it because I feel like this up in my crease feels like a little bit much to me. I think I would use it in a little bit more of a controlled way, but I don't mind when shadows lean more on the intense side and I have to like be a little easy on them. There's other products like blush. I don't like that. I'd rather them be on the more subtle side. But shadows, like, I can handle this. Wow, a gorgeous, warm, orangey brown base with this beautiful gold on top of it. And I know from the swatches that it does have green in it. Maybe we'll see that in the other light. But it's funny that this one really makes this one look like nothing. Like, I'm happy we saw this on its own to know that it is really pretty. Wow. Yeah, more of the same. You really do see the sparkle in them, but I think this one's just so much brighter and bolder, but I like this one in its own way also. I thought I was going to be able to make a look with the two of these, the two browns leaving on, but the formulas are so different that that is clearly not an option. So I'm going to choose a shadow and make a look with it, and we'll be right back. And here's the finished look. As you can see, I decided to just go with Whistling Woods for both eyes. I left it on with this eye. I added a sloppy application, both with no primer on this eye too. I added in a matte from the Patrick Ta Major Dimension palette on the top, another matte on the bottom, a shimmer from that palette on the bottom, and then my inner corner is Terra Moon's Light Speed, because I felt like it kind of added in with the yellowy greenish type of effect that's going on with the shadow. I really like this look. I feel like this is the kind of look that I want to try to remember, so that when I'm in a situation where like I need to get ready and go out, in which case I want something kind of like bold and sexy, but also maybe neutral and something that I know will look good. This is the kind of look that I could 100% imagine for like a late night in the city on a hot summer night, you know? I'm really into it. I will say with this formula, this feels like nearly a pressed glitter. So if you're sensitive to that type of like thick shard feeling, you wouldn't like this, but I think it looks much prettier than a pressed glitter. You know, you wouldn't necessarily see that description from looking at it, although it is the same kind of boldness that you might expect from a pressed glitter. I don't think it is, but that is the best comparison that I have to the formula. It is very sharp and tacky, but unlike a pressed glitter that I feel like works best over a base to fill in the gaps that will be left between the glitter particles, this doesn't leave gaps. As you saw, this is like a real full pigment coat to your eyelids, and it's beautiful. I will talk about this a little bit on a shade by shade basis, just so if this does become available as singles in the future, this video will still be helpful and relevant. But keep in mind, as I'm talking about the individual shades, that it is only a bundle right now. With shipping, with the little mini palette, and with the discount code and the US conversion, I think I spent around $95 US on this. That's a lot of money for 6 shadows. There's so many beautiful indie brands that you can get the exact 6 shadows that you want for that price, or less. You know, you could get 6 Cleona shadows for that price, you could get 6 Divina or Terra Moon shadows for that price. And it is kind of a hard pill to swallow to have to get 6 that are already chosen for you. So I can't answer that question for you if $95 is worth it for this. You have to, you know, want all the shades. Decide that it's worth it for your own personal needs, your own personal collection, your own personal budget. And I can't answer that question for you, but I can tell you which shadows I recommend and how I feel about them going forward. So no surprise, Granny Magic and Lorelei are going to be at the bottom of the stack for me. My opinion is a little bit changed seeing them in the lower light cam, because they are so incredibly sparkly. They are beautiful shadows, but I just know that within my collection, I'm not going to be reaching for these. I would rather reach for a more textured version of this shade, and I would rather reach for like a more pigmented shadow in place of this. Neither of them just call to me. So for me, I probably will not get my money's worth out of these 2 shades. We'll see what the future holds. Sometimes I do surprise myself or find a use that I didn't expect for some shadows, but at the present time, I don't think those 2 were like worth it for me. The next one up is the shade Changeling. How did I say that before? Changeling. This is the dark multi-chrome brown that we tried on this eye. You know, it hasn't been that long. I think it's a pretty shade. I think it has a nice shimmer. As I said, I think there is a use for it kind of as a replacement for a black-based multi-chrome, but if I was able to just buy singles, would I have bought this one? I don't know. And like, if I lost this palette and then they were available as singles, would I buy that? I don't know. I think it's pretty, and because I have it, I think I will use it. But at the same time, I probably will be more excited to reach for more bright shadows. But maybe it is what you've been looking for, if you like really would use Forge every day if it wasn't for it being black-based. The last 3 I really like all three of these, and those finger swatches look so pretty. And I don't know exactly how I'd rank them. So we have Fairy Ring, which I really like. I definitely will be reaching for. I wish I liked the texture more, but I do really like the look of it, and I love all those different tones in the sparkle. And then we have Echidna that took a little bit more building up. It went on a little bit more sheer, but it is such a pretty, beautiful textured shadow. It looks like a summer sunset. I don't think I really have other shadows in that color. I think I will get some good use out of it. And then we have Whistling Woods, which is so pretty, but it's definitely a harsher type of shadow, a really bold shadow. As I said, I plan to use it a lot. I plan to make it kind of like a go-to eye makeup uniform for me in a way. But this type of formula definitely won't be everyone's cup of tea because it is very intense. I kind of have a little bit of mixed feelings about the whole thing. I think overall, especially because I like to talk about makeup on the internet, I am happy I bought it. I think if I didn't buy it, it would really be weighing over me for months in the same way that the shadows last year did, and I ended up getting 3 of them, 2 of which I love a lot, one of which was Bizarre, I'm not a fan of at all. Even still, like, even when I was planning to make this order, they had a couple on sale from that collection, and I'm like, oh, should I buy that one now? Should I buy that one now? Because I really like the vibe of the shadows, and I knew that if I didn't get this, I would be wanting it. I do bet they'll release them as singles. I feel like, why not? I think what they did last year was they got everyone who was willing to spend more money on a bundle to do it, and then once they ran out of those people, they decided to release them as singles to get the people that would only buy them as singles. Kind of just a, you know, a little marketing tactic. So I don't know why they wouldn't do it the same way this year. Just a reminder that $95 for most people is a lot of money, and it's just eyeshadow at the end of the day. It's pretty eyeshadow, but it is just eyeshadow. And don't let the scarcity make you make a decision that you're not comfortable with. I think last year, if I had bought them right off the bat, I would have been uncomfortable spending that much money, you know? And it was just because of like where I was with my finances and with my desires that I decided to buy this one when it came out. If I didn't buy it, I would have lived, but because I have it, I will enjoy a bunch of these shades. I think that's everything that I have to say about this. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you got this palette or if you got the other one. If you're enjoying the other one, I would be really curious about that too. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me, and that's going to be everything for today. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.